Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Macmillan Online Teachers' Day for primary teachers. I hope you're all very well. I'm delighted that you could all join us here this evening. My name is Louise Connolly. I'm the events manager at Macmillan. So now, with no further ado, I'd like to welcome our first speaker. Our first speaker is Schuyler Hedstrom. Sky, hi, good evening.
Hi.
Great to have you here with us again. It's always a pleasure to work with Sky. He's given a lot of online and face-to-face training sessions for us for a variety of programs, including these online events, Teachers' Days, over the last number of years. And his session today, aimed at primary, is called Be Different. So over to you, Sky.
Thank you, Louise. Hi, everybody. It's great to see you virtually from my living room. Thank you for joining us. Today, I'm going to be giving you a variety of ideas and activities focusing on creativity and encouraging our pupils to be different, to enjoy variety and creativity and being original. There will be a couple moments where you can give your ideas in the chat box. So although I will share now a PowerPoint, if you can open the chat box or keep it open, this way you can keep responding and participating throughout the session. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. I'm going to start the session with an interactive element. It is a poll, and there are 4 questions, and I want to know which one is true. Okay, so here are the 4 questions. Everyone has the potential to be creative. Creativity is limited to the arts subjects. Children will get all the creative experience they need from free play. And to have creativity, you have to be born with it. So we're going to launch a poll and you can vote which one is true. Please choose your answer.
Yes, the poll now will appear on your screen. I can see that people are already responding really quickly. The question is, which of these is true? And there are 4 options. And
we have a clear winner.
Yeah, we have a clear winner. It's a 95% more or less. Everyone has the potential to be creative. Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
So the idea is we want to not categorize children as some of them are creative and some of them are not creative. We want to think that everyone has the potential to be creative. So therefore, our task as teachers is to encourage and develop that potential. We want to provide opportunities for students to become, in this case, I have a quote, our ultimate goal as educators, inspiring pupils to become curious, engaged, and interested in the world around them and within them. Because maybe pupils are creative, but they're not sure how to express it. So we want to give them the tools, give them activities so that they can be creative. So before I go into my ideas, please use the chat and tell the group one idea. What do you do in your classroom to encourage creativity? And you can use the chat box.
Okay, so we've got some replies. Camila saying lap books. Okay, laptops. And let's see what other people have to say. Arts and crafts from Fernando. Marta says critical thinking questions, creative writing, free tasks, free writing tasks, drawing tasks, Chromebooks, apps such as Genially or Kahoot, PowerPoint, projects, open activities, poetry, games, mini books, activities like creating your own mythical creature. Excellent. Posters as well, role play. So there's a lot of ideas in here. video creations, okay, creating videos, free composition, games,
Multiple intelligences.
TikTok.
Great. So today we're going to look at some activities and different categories, focusing on different things to encourage creativity. But those are great ideas. People are already using some of the things I'm going to talk about. This is a very simple game, and it is called What Is It? Now, in order to successfully play this game, I'm going to stop sharing my PowerPoint so you can see my face. Hello. I have a wooden spoon because I'm in my kitchen, but you can either bring a spoon to class or you can have children use their pen or their pencil. Really, the object doesn't have to be a spoon, but the game is what is it? So the person with the object will use the object. Louise, are you ready to play with me?
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna mime and you're gonna say what it is.
Oh, I think it's a hairbrush.
Yeah, you have to use your imagination, okay?
Ooh, toothbrush.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I do. Yes. What do you call it? Eyeliner brush, something like that.
A mascara brush?
Brush, yeah.
Don't ask me.
Well,
okay.
go on. Okay, a mic.
Right, microphone, and one more.
Oh, a bow for playing my.
Perfect. Bow for a violin. So basically, the teacher starts with an example or two, and then she or he gives the object to a child. In times of pandemic, we can have each child use their own pencil, so we're not passing objects around. But you start with a mime, and then you can add dialogue if you want to. Another version of this game is instead of the object changing, you think of an adjective and the children have to act in a certain way. So if I say the object is hot, then I would say, or I would act like this. Or the object is smelly, then I would be like, okay, so I'm passing the object around and responding to the adjective that the teacher says. You can also get ideas from the class. They can think of adjectives for pupils that have a greater vocabulary. So that's just a simple game. And this is what we're going to talk about today, ways to encourage creativity, ways to be different. Play games, do activities where there's no right or wrong answer. If they're very open-ended, then any idea is valid. Other ideas, problem solving, getting them to think creatively, think outside the box, as we say. Experiment with different materials. Try to use more than paper and pencils. Model creative thinking and behavior. And I'm referring to you as the teacher, that you, if you are creative, you're showing your pupils they can be different. And finally, the last thing we're going to look at today is praising children for creative thinking. We often praise children when they participate, or when they have the right answer, or when they're quiet or well-behaved, which is great. We want to encourage all of those things, but you can also praise children for being creative, therefore showing them that that is a valuable skill to learn. So I'm going to include ideas for all levels of primary, and most activities, you can simplify them for younger pupils, or you can extend them if you teach upper primary. But I teach a lot of theater in my classes, and so I adjust more mime for younger pupils, and then I can add more complicated improvisations, role plays, dialogues as the children get older and if they have a better command of English. And I also today have ideas both for face-to-face classes and for virtual learning, depending on your current situation. So the first category is no right or wrong answer. So In this image, the man says, call me a cab. And she says, okay, you're a cab. It's a joke. I just want to show with this that sometimes the answer you expect in your head is not the answer the child or the pupil's going to give, and that's okay. We as teachers have to be flexible, open-minded, and do activities where there isn't a right or wrong answer. Any answer is valid. Like the game with the spoon, the object, it's not like if you say it's a back scratcher, that's better or worse than saying it's a toothbrush. All possible answers are okay. So this is encouraging children to give their opinions, teaching them that it's okay to take risks. Also, it's okay to make mistakes. That's part of life, trial and error. Doing activities without a right or wrong answer, without a winner or loser. Yeah, so this is what I'm going to talk about in this category. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with the Getty Museum Challenge. This happened last spring when we all were suddenly in our houses. The Getty Museum I believe in Los Angeles, launched this challenge on social media where anybody could recreate a famous work of art in your house. So you would take the original painting or sculpture and then take your own version of it using things you find in your house. And it was a wonderful creative outlet. A lot of schools got their classes on board, making their own versions of famous art. So this is an example I found on Twitter. You can see the Van Gogh original on the left, and this teacher, Tim Needles, on the right. So I think it was April last year, my group of friends, we all did our versions of the Getty Museum Challenge. And this is my Roya. It's like Clotilde in bed, and I'm in my bed. So it's just an idea of finding some creative challenge and putting it out there for your pupils and having them be really creative and be really inventive. Another game is called Where is the Chair? Similar to What is the Object? You have a chair and the actor or the main person and the protagonist of that moment has to sit in the chair to show where it is. Now, Louise, again, I'm going to stop sharing so you can see me. I'm in my chair.
Okay.
First example.
You're
Yes,
working.
I'm working. I'm in an office. Okay. Yeah. Another example.
You're multitasking, Sky.
Classic Sky. Okay. Another example.
You're at the cinema. You're eating popcorn.
Perfect. And one more example.
Oh, you're riding a motorbike.
Perfect, exactly. So the chair could be anything, and the game is where is the chair? Okay, so it could be in an office, it could be riding a horse, a motorcycle. Now, that's just a mime version, but then you could develop the mime into a scene. You can add dialogue, you could add whatever you're studying, whatever grammar expression, but you start with just acting. Normally I get not the class clown, but the child who's the most like me, that one will start and then the other pupils will join in. And if someone can't think of something, they don't have to do it, no pressure. All right, I have one more game and this is called The Letter. It's a blank piece of paper and the game again, it begins with a mime. So one person has the letter and they're reading it. And then I ask, is it good news or bad news? Louise?
I think it's bad.
Totally bad news.
Oh, no.
And then, depending on the person, each person can guess what they think the letter says. So people will say, you lost your job, or you didn't win something. In my case, I was imagining it was the electricity bill from January. So okay, but you can have any kind of letter. It could be good news. It could be Okay, and then you ask the pupils, what do you think the letter said? Again, you start with a mime and then you can add dialogue after. All right, I'll go back to my PowerPoint. What these two games have in common is there's no winner or loser. There's no right answer or wrong answer. You simply propose an activity and any idea that the pupils have is valid. They just imagine all the different kinds of letters, and then they play the game. The next category of activities which encourage children to be different is problem solving. So this is asking questions which make children think. Having children work together to compare their ideas. In the chat earlier, when I asked how you make your teaching creative, some people said working in groups or project-based learning. That's great. Play guessing games. Okay, so here's an idea, an activity to get your students talking. It requires little explanation, but gets pupils talking to each other, and it's called What Am I Riddles. So normally for younger students, I would pre-teach some of the key vocabulary. In this case, I'm going to choose animals. So if I'm thinking what vocabulary do I need to use for animals, I might show a picture of this and teach the word fur. I might show this picture and teach feathers or wings, very specific vocabulary that may be claws, things they need to know, and also horns. So pre-teach some key vocabulary, maybe write the words on the board, and then we play. So now anyone, you can open your chat, and if you think you know the answer, the clues are getting more and more specific, and the category is animals. First clue, I live on a farm. And you have your pupils raise your hand and we start getting some guesses. Louise, do you have the chat open?
Yes, I do. Somebody's saying human, a hen, pig, sheep.
All
I think
right.
we need chicken.
Next clue, I have horns.
A duck?
Duck?
A goat?
That would be a crazy duck.
No, that
Next
came before
clue,
this. I give milk.
I give
I think
milk.
some people might be getting very close.
Are we getting closer? Are we getting closer? And then finally, the easiest clue.
Yes.
Perfect. So
okay, so yes, cow.
Right. Yes. You start very general, or it's a duck that moves. No, you start very general, and then you get more and more specific, and people are like, oh, I know. So guessing games like this are also useful if you want to practice a very specific grammar point. For example, has got. So you can play this guess my animal game. This is from Kids Can. Has it got feathers? Yes, it has. Has it got fur? No, it hasn't. So you can tailor these games to a specific grammar point that you're studying in your class. For upper primary, if you teach 5th and 6th graders, well, then you have to present a more difficult problem to solve. In this case, survivor situations. Let me explain the scenario. The situation is you are trapped on a deserted island. That's the basic idea. You can say you were on a boat and the boat sank, and so you swam to this island and you're stuck on this island in the middle of nowhere. What would you bring? If you could choose 3 objects, what objects would you want if you were trapped on a deserted island? Let's say for a couple weeks, okay? So again, I would scaffold the structures. I might write on the board, I would bring ... or ... would be useful. I could show some pictures of some examples. I call this a Swiss Army knife. Some people call it a penknife, matches, a tarp, okay? So you give them some ideas, and then each pupil would write down their 3 objects. Now, I can't actually talk to you. We're not all in the same classroom. So I'm going to use a poll just to see which object of I've chosen 4, and I want to see which is the most popular. Knife, mobile phone, sleeping bag, or water purification tablets. I'm just curious to see what we choose.
Okay, so you've got a couple of seconds, everybody, to vote. There's the poll on your screen. Which object would you bring? Now it's 50-50 on the knife and water purification tablets, more or less.
Yeah, they're neck and neck.
I must admit, I'd have some difficulty in choosing. I think I'd want to take more than one object with me.
I want to take MacGyver. I should have put MacGyver as one of the choices.
Exactly. Somebody who knows how to survive in those seconds. Okay, so we've got definitely, well, it's a very small majority of a knife, followed by water purification tablets, followed by a sleeping bag, and then finally a mobile phone. Thank you.
I'm glad that it was neck and neck. I'm glad that it was so close, because that goes to the next part of this activity. So basically,
and just one thing, Annabelle in the chat makes a good comment. She says the kids would want to take the mobile phone
until the battery runs out.
Yes.
So I like this activity where the answers, it's not clear that there's one correct answer, because then you have to convince your classmates, defend your thinking. So basically say why your object is better or the best. So to get your students talking, the idea how I would do this game in a classroom is I would have each pupil think of 3 objects and then write them down. Then I would have them work with a partner and they each tell each other their objects, and together they have to come up with the best 3 of the 6 potentially that they have between 2 of them. They talk back and forth and choose their best 3, and then that pair talks to another pair and compares and see if they can come to a consensus, and then finally tell the teacher your objects. So asking the right questions, we're encouraging the students to do a higher level thinking. Remembering facts is not as difficult, or it's a different kind of thinking versus defending your ideas or convincing others. There's this great image here of levels of thinking. It's called Bloom's taxonomy, and we see at the very bottom of the pyramid, it's remembering basic facts, memorizing, repeating, and as you get higher, you're using higher level thinking, different kinds of skills, where you can see kind of in the middle toward the top, you're starting to compare and contrast, you're starting to justify your idea, judge, critique, and finally the top is create, or producing original work yourself. So just by asking the right questions, asking like, why would you choose the mobile phone, or how would you use the knife, you're getting them to think and justify their decisions. The next category of how we can be creative is experimenting with different materials. I said at the beginning, we want to get away from simply using paper and pencil the whole time. So here, imagine you're learning about the weather. We all know hot, cold, sunny, windy, raining, snowy, cloudy. And then at the bottom of this page, you can see a mime and guess what's the weather like. My suggestion is you can bring in newspapers from home. One newspaper, you give each child a sheet of the paper, which I have right here. And Louise, I need you to tell me a weather word, and I'm going to act with my newspaper.
Sunny. Hot. Yes. Windy. Rainy. Stormy.
Right. So Again, there's no right answer. If for Rainy, if you do this and someone else does this and someone else does this, it doesn't matter. It's just getting them to be creative. And you bring a newspaper from home, and it's not like you're spending lots of money on arts and crafts supplies. So I use recyclable materials like newspapers all the time. Another way you can use sheets of newspaper, reviewing whether vocabulary, but also a fashion show. Everyone has a piece of newspaper and you say, make an article of clothing. And so they fold the paper or they tear it and they can make a hat or a tie or whatever, a bracelet, a necklace, you'd be surprised. And then I have them do a fashion show and I make comments. You can also use newspapers if you're reading a story and you want to make costumes or props. You can use newspaper, tape, scissors, and you can make various props. Here you can see the royal family, okay? Royal family in newspaper. Another activity, if you are doing virtual classes, distance learning, is having an indoor scavenger hunt. So you provide them with a list of objects and your pupils have to run in their house and find and bring it to show the screen what they found. They're running around, they're looking for objects. Definitely make sure they're objects that they have in their house to avoid frustration. Question for you in the chat box. What other materials can you use or do you use in your classroom? So let's say not paper and pencils. What other materials do you use? Please use the chat box.
Okay, there are answers coming in. Realia, video, plastic bags, masks, photos, flashcards.
Nice.
Toys, magazines, gloves, bottle caps, puppets, songs, toilet rolls. Yes, toilet rolls are very useful.
Totally.
Balls, old books, fly swatters. Oh, I like that. Yes, I've used them a lot. I'm a fan of them. Little blackboards, yes, or whiteboards, brochures, microphones, yogurt pots. Very useful yogurt pots.
Yes.
Maps. Excellent.
Perfect.
Dice.
Okay. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone.
Very creative. I was thinking you can also use sand, yarn, clay, natural materials from outside, leaves or pine cones or flowers, or even food. This example here is, it's miming making a pancake. So you would mime all of these ingredients, but I know sometimes for a special occasion, you can bring in real food or have kind of a tasting. I think also using food in class could be fun. So the idea is get creative with the materials you use in your class. Sometimes you don't have to provide step-by-step specific instructions. You can simply provide the materials and maybe one simple instruction. So make something useful. It's very general. You're giving them a task, but maybe they've never had this. Maybe they've never had someone just say, no, make something useful, because they're so used to following step 1, step 2, step 3. But you're encouraging them to think, to be creative, to make something and then justify it to you. This is for upper primary. You can provide the template of a comic strip. You can take away what they've said, and so pupils would fill in the captions. A writing task where you're giving them the basic format, but then they can be creative with what the characters are saying. I saw this also last spring when people were forced to do virtual classes, and it was make laundry art. So again, people were in their houses and they had to try to make art from their laundry. Another one I saw was using their toys, and they had to make a museum collection and curate like a museum exhibit based on their toys. And they would take pictures or describe for the teacher, for their classmates, why they chose specific toys to be in their museum collection. So really, with one simple instruction, you can get a lot of creativity out of your pupils. Make sure you use the craft. Once you've made something, make sure you use it for communication purposes. So you can make a commercial where they have to try to sell it or invent a song, a jingle. The teacher should not only ask yes or no questions, ask why or how or what does this mean, getting them to justify, use higher level thinking. Tell us why yours is the best. So they're evaluating and giving their opinions, comparing and contrasting, not just yes or no questions. Virtual field trips. It took a pandemic to realize how many resources are available on the internet. So in these times where we are not able to go to museums, aquariums, you can find so many virtual field trips. Just if you Google virtual field trips, you can visit the Grand Canyon, you can visit the MoMA, you can visit the pyramids, lots of zoo webcams. Just be careful with the time difference because you might be watching a zoo that's in complete darkness because it's nighttime. So think about that. Safari webcams, there's lots of resources available. If we can't travel, we can at least bring these environments into the classroom. The next category, how we can encourage our pupils to be different, is if we, the teachers, model creative thinking. Give children options. So when you're doing a creative task, you can do it this way or this way. They don't have to follow cookie cutter, step 1, step 2, step 3. Show more than one example and surprise your pupils. Anytime you can surprise them, it makes them feel that being creative is funny and cool. So Easter is coming up. And so if you're making an Easter bunny mask, I would say show different examples. This way, you're not telling them that they have to make every single object exactly the same. 2 more examples. For an online class, you can surprise them with a funny virtual background. This is the House of Friends, the Friends set. So just for a virtual class, put a funny background just to keep it light. The final thing we're going to talk about is praising creative thinking. So we need to learn to recognize creative thinking and praise it. Research has shown that children respond better to individual praise rather than general comments to all the class. And we want to reward the thinking, not the answer. So final chat questions. Final chat question: what expressions can we use to praise creativity? I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Use the chat box, please. Any ideas of expressions we can use in the classroom?
Okay, they're coming in. Good job. Cool. Amazing. Wonderful. You're a crack.
Nice.
Brilliant. Gorgeous. Love that. Genius. That's original. I really like the way you did that. Nice.
Good.
There are lots of ideas. Fantastic. Awesome.
Great. And
job.
I just have some here that I'm going to show. What a great idea. Good thinking, Pablo. And remember, specific praise is better. So good thinking, Joe or Maria. Very original. Someone said that in the chat box. I'd never thought of that. Wow, I'd never thought of that. Shows that even adults didn't think of that idea. How creative. That's clever. A couple more. Good for you. Maybe the answer is totally bonkers, but you're like, good for you. Fascinating. Well, that's a new idea, as in it's not what I was thinking, but it's a new idea. I like your originality. I like your creativity. Again, giving praise to the thinking. Wow, that's cool. That's very unique. That's very different. Just examples of language you can use in the classroom, focusing on the thinking and not just that's the right answer. Okay, that's the end of my chat. You can put any comments or questions in the chat box. We have a couple minutes where I can hopefully answer your questions.
Okay, so we've had a comment from Juan Antonio. Fascinating. Look, I'm not sure, maybe he's referring to the praise. Fascinating.
No, I think he's telling me that I'm fascinating.
Yeah, you're sorry. Very useful. Thank you for the great ideas. Is there any book about your ideas? Well,
let's talk to Macmillan about that.
Yes. What about very shy children? So children who are less outgoing.
Yes, I would say partner them, put them in a group with someone who's less shy, be patient with the shy kids, don't force them to do anything. Do games where everyone's in a circle. If everyone's doing the activity at the same time, then the shy ones don't feel less individual pressure.
Yes. Okay. And yeah, lots of really positive comments. Great talk. Congratulations. What about disruptive pupils? Yeah, ones that will maybe.
Sometimes it's the disruptive pupils that do best if you give them a creative outlet. So again, on a case by, it's hard to generalize on a case by case basis, but I would say try to have an open mind and think that maybe in some drama activity or some creative activity, they're going to be engaged and so less disruptive. But if they're disruptive with everything, then you have to use whatever punishments your school has. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you need to mark the limits there in that case?
Yeah.
Yes, more great positive comments, good ideas, great ideas. Thanks, very interesting. So yeah, lots of ideas there, Sky.
Yeah,
Very
and I have everything in the handout, which you're going to send in a week or so.
Yeah, exactly. There will be a handout for this talk and for the one coming up with Fiona. So you'll have a summary of all the ideas there. So that's great. Well, thank you very much, Sky. It's been a real pleasure. You've given us a lot of ideas to think about, and I really liked your focus on accepting different answers and allowing students to demonstrate what they're thinking, what they know, giving them that opportunity and allowing them, to express themselves and make mistakes, as we all do, and that's the only way we that we can encourage them to.
I think also sometimes when a teacher, and this happens to everyone, when you ask a question, you have an answer in mind of what you think they're going to say, and if they say something different, then your first instinct is, no, that's wrong. But if you take a step back and think, that's not what I was thinking, but it's still a possible answer. It's being more open-minded.
Exactly. Okay, thank you, Sky.
Okay.